Hello and welcome along to another episode of this FM19 story, The Head Coach with me, Daniel. It's season 13, episode 10, and today we're playing the most important game remaining this season, the one that's going to wrap up the title if it goes well for us, and ensure we've got a domestic treble before we finish our time at Sporting. We know we're going to be leaving at the end of this year, and it would take a catastrophic collapse to lose this title race, but an 8-point gap becomes 5 if we lose this, and that'll make things tense with just 6 games to go. Now, last time you were with me, the gap was 7 points. The reason it's increased by 1 is because Porto absolutely thrashed Benfica. Their new manager's working absolute wonders. They've moved up to 4th in the league and they're going to get up to 3rd. They're flying in the Europa League too, as we unfortunately saw at our expense. So they beat them 4-1 and then we drew 0-0 at home to Boa Vista. A really disappointing result for us, but it does mean we increase our lead slightly. It would have been nice if it was 10 points, as I wouldn't have even worried too much about today, but unfortunately we now have got to do so as we're starting to hit a bit of tricky form. We've not been at our most fluent since losing to Porto. You were with me for the Braga win after that awful first leg defeat, and unfortunately despite dominating the second leg we somehow managed to lose that one 1-0 too, and then since then the goals have just dried up a little. We won 2-0 at home in the following game, Sousa and Miladinovic getting the goals in the first half, and then a 1-0 win away to Rio Ave, Bernardo Sousa getting the early goal, and a sending off with 15 minutes to go couldn't help us get a second. We had nearly half of the capacity in the ground ironically, despite being the away side in that one. And then a 0-0 draw at home to Boa Vista as we mentioned a moment ago. S L Benfica picked up a knock and Ikede Gerardo made his return from injury. So we have got a few positives, but none of our strikers are really in form at the moment, and that is making things a bit more tricky for us, but they are all high quality players, so hopefully they'll come good eventually. We've got a relatively friendly run in after this one. Just Victoria Guimarães are a bit of a trouble. They're up in 4th at the moment, but I think they're going to start falling behind soon. Porto are soon to overtake them, and the rest of the running looks pretty good on paper. But the other big news since the last episode was our youth intake. We were looking for it at the end of the last episode. Unfortunately, it came a little bit later in the month. Seems to be a little bit later than in England. But let's go and look at our under-19 squad. We haven't really signed many of them. There's plenty that have been set for release, as not many have reached the highest standard. So because there's a few affiliate clubs here that are linked with lower league teams, we managed to get their youth players in, and it means that we save fees and potentially find gems from other places in the country without having to do as much of the scouting work. So the pick of the bunch was Milton Mbamba, I think that is. He's a 16-year-old Angolan left midfielder. He's not great technically, to be honest, and mentally you wouldn't expect too much at 16, but physically he's got a few good attributes, so he could make it as a professional player. I don't think he's going to make it at Sporting, and aside from that there isn't much to talk about. João Silva was highlighted as the pick of the bunch in the message. He's a 1-star ability central midfielder with potentially 3 stars of ability. He's a decent player across the board, but again hasn't got anything special. When you think of the regions such as Spain and Portugal, you're immediately looking for flair technical midfielders, but he doesn't seem to have that. He's a bit more of a box-to-box type. We'll see if he develops, but we're not going to find out here, as Sporting are going to continue their journey without me next season. So after being really excited for one of the best youth academies in the world, the most famed in terms of players they brought through in recent years, there was nothing really to speak about, and in the end it wasn't much of a highlight in our season. But let's go and get into this game today. It's obviously the big one, first v second, and if Benfica win it they've got a good chance at the title, whereas if we win it it's pretty much job done. Benfica is out injured after that knock in the last game. Michel still hasn't returned from injury. It's been a really big miss for us, particularly in Europe, not having our first choice centre half. There's a couple of players not registered for Benfica. I'd assume they're not good enough to be in the squad, and a couple doubtful after injury, but I'm sure they'll manage without them. We've got to remember they're on the back of a 4-1 defeat against Porto, so hopefully their confidence is hit as well. And we've gone for a pretty familiar lineup today, and we've taken a punt on Gerardo ahead of Miladinovic up front. So we've got Fabrizio in goal, Rodriguez and Vernier the fullbacks, with Paixão and Ashley in the middle, Schürrle and De Campo in central midfield, Hyosung and Dembele on the wings. Dembele switched over to the left-hand side to cover the injury for Benfica, but he's going to play as an inside forward as he's not too good as a winger. We've got Sousa the top scorer, the club legend in the number 10 role, and then up front it's Ikede Gerardo, although I'm still tempted to switch the strikers. I'm going to do it. I'm going to play Miladinovic. He's been in better form since January, and Gerardo can make an impact off the bench. There's a few players that miss out on the squad. 2 two of the younger strikers and Dragon Tomic to number 10, but we've still got a few game changers available, although most of them are in defensive positions. But let's go and get into this game against Benfica. It doesn't need talking up anymore. It's first v second, it's the title decider, and fingers crossed we can get at least a point, which will hopefully see us over the line. It's a 4-4-2 for Benfica. We know they've played that a couple of times already this year. They've got Pedroso in goal, did a brilliant job against us last time. Don't forget earlier in the season we dominated this game. For 60 minutes we were completely on top. We were leading 1-0 and then we had two lapses of concentration at the back to allow Marzuki, their star striker, to score a brace. He's on loan from PSG just as Gerardo is for us. He's a brilliant young striker and he's going to cause us trouble today. He's the one world-class player in their team. They've got a couple of decent wingers as well, and I think it's going to be a tricky one this time, particularly with Benfica having home advantage. We're going to tell the lads to do what they can to keep our run going, and although we drew against Boa Vista, we're still unbeaten in the league since our last game against this opposition, and our only domestic defeat since then was the Portuguese Cup game against Porto. But let's go and get into the first half of this match and hope we can put on a decent performance. We'll start with our usual positive mentality, but if we get overrun really early on, we will go straight back to balanced and just be a bit more conservative. 5 minutes gone though, it's 0-0 and we're not really seeing any highlights. Benfica dominating possession, but there's not been much to worry us yet. 15 minutes gone, still nothing to concern us so far. We're playing it out from the back with a goal kick. Astley getting it to Rodriguez, the right back. Benfica have had one shot on target, but again we didn't see it on camera. And we've had one shot too, but that one didn't hit the target. We're starting to claw back the possession stat, and we're keeping it nicely at the back here. Sousa finds Schürrle in central midfield. A lovely ball through for Miladinovic, and it's a good save by Pedroso. We know he's got that in his locker, the keeper, and he's tipped it over for a corner. It's Hyosong with an outswinger, it's overhit, it beats every Benfica player and they manage to get it away on the right hand side. Henrique's coming forward on the counter, but De Campo with a good sliding challenge as the ball's cleared away for a throw. We're back with Rodriguez, he's got a long throw on the right for us. It's a good attacking position but it's headed away and Sousa starts again with Pac Xiao. Out to Rodriguez, the right back, down the line for Hyosung and he comes inside. De Campo to Sousa, he goes for the shot but Pedroso holds it comfortably. A decent start, and with 20 minutes gone we've now got a very big injury concern. Ryan Astley's picked up a bruised ankle. He wants to come off, but I can't do that. We've got no players capable of playing centre-half on the bench. Our only other one's out injured, and we haven't got any other options. Pedroso gathers across as we come back at a strange time, but I'm sure they'll start a counter-attack here. A long ball over the top. Astley heads away, but only as far as Marzuki. Gets it into Vasquez's strike partner. He delivers to the back post. Edu Vieira nods it down, and the keeper's in no man's land. He tries to scramble down to his right, but it's gone in the back of the net. Rodriguez being blamed for missing the header, and unfortunately Benfica lead 1-0. It's been a pretty even game. It's not like we've been overrun. We're just not able to cope on the break, and we keep making individual mistakes. Nesken's the right winger, just runs through the whole team, and he forces a good save from Fabrizio this time. We can replace Rodriguez, but it's a bit of a concern. We haven't got many defenders available, and I don't want Astley to come off injured. Miladinovic on the counter-attack. A really cynical foul by Benfica. It's got to be a yellow card for that one. Surely the referee's not going to bottle that. He does give the yellow card to the left back, and with half an hour gone we've got a throw on the left. Vernier gets it into the box, but it's a really poor throw, and now it's cleared long to Marzuki. Benfica can counter and catch us out again, and if they lead 2-0 it will be curtains. Nesken's on the right wing. He's going to beat the fullback and deliver into Vasquez along the front post. He puts it in past Fabrizio again. I felt like he should have got a hand to that too, and now Benfica have carved us apart in 4 minutes. 2 goals to double their lead there, and now Marzuki with a free kick just over the bar. It's all going wrong the same as last time. We played Benfica earlier in the season. In the home game they scored 2 in 5 minutes. That turned the game around from where we were a comfortable position, and exactly the same has happened here. 0-0 and a nothing game, and then in 5 minutes it's all over. It's De Campo in the centre circle now, back to Vernier the left back. Rodriguez ratings dipping below a 6 now. We're going to have to think about a half-time sub. I don't want to drop to balanced at 2-0 either, but I think it could be out of sight if we don't do that soon. Vasquez is put in behind by Marzuki again. Fabrizio saves it for a corner, and we're just going to go to balanced until half time because we've really got to regroup and make sure it's not 3 or 4. The corner straight into Fabrizio's arms, and this has been a disastrous 15 minutes before the break. It's Ashley at the back, the last chance of the half. 30 seconds to go and we had a warning to close someone down. Man Mark Vasquez as he's causing us trouble. Maybe they've got 2 world-class strikers. We focused so much on Marzuki we didn't even look at Vasquez, and he's put us to the sword with a second goal in this one. Bernardo Souza's trying to get us back into it though. Runs past 2 or 3 and goes for the shot, but it's deflected behind for a corner. Hyosung will deliver it, an in-swinger, surely the last chance of the half, and it's headed away. It doesn't beat the first man, and at half-time we trail 2-0. They haven't dominated by any means, but the last 15 minutes we've completely fallen apart, and now Benfica are going to make the title race interesting. We have had interviews at a couple of big European clubs, which I'll talk about in a moment, but we're not going to get that job if we throw away the title race. We've really got to be a bit more careful. I'm not going to throw my toys out the pram. I'm just not going to say a word in the dressing room. I'm going to sit them in silence for 15 minutes and see if that makes a difference. They'll certainly know how we feel, but then our best player Bernardo Souza has just passed the ball out for a throw-in. It's Enrique at the back for Benfica, dropping deep from midfield and starting a counter. Marzuki gets in midfield now, and he finds Edu Vieira. He's charging down the left-hand side. Plenty of time and space to go into Marin. Marzuki in the box is blocked and back to Neskens. He forces another save from Fabrizio. We've actually been outrun more since we've gone to balance, so I'm going to go back to a positive mentality, and we're going to ask the lads to show some passion. Hopefully a few of them will be fired up, and in 5 or 10 minutes we'll make 3 changes. It's a corner for Hyosung. Can we get a lifeline? It doesn't beat the first man again. I'm getting really disappointed by this set-piece delivery. We've got it on aim for the 6-yard box or back post, and every time they're just hitting the first man. Neskens gets it inside. They play a 1-2. Benfica feeling really confident at the back, just passing it short around us and making us chase it all day long. Neskens finds Marin now as they turn it into a quick attack. They've really turned the switch on that counter there, but Marin shoots from distance and it's over the bar. We're going to go and make our 3 changes. Rodriguez is fired up, but he's had a shocking game. Matteo will come on at right back for him. My striker choice hasn't paid off as Miladinovic is anxious. He missed one good chance in the first half. Gerardo's going to come on up front, and then we're going to take the left back Vernier off too. Really disappointing this season. He's anxious, he's not playing well, and after being a star for us at Napoli last season, he's really not done much here. Ruben, the Portuguese left back, comes on. I know he's not quite as talented, but he's a really solid performer. Hopefully if we can have a solid base at the back, then the front 4 can focus on going forward. Ferro's got it in midfield though for Benfica. He's a centre half, but he's stepped across halfway, and they're finding it really easy to keep possession here as they're just running absolute rings round us. It's Enrique on halfway to Marin. He finds Heskens. Back to Marin again, and look how much space he's got. Marzuki on the edge, a brilliant save for Fabrizio, and Edu Vieira gets on the rebound. He put it in the net, but luckily he was offside. That could have been 3-0 and curtains for us. Fabrizio makes a good save from a free kick as Marzuki's starting to get in on the action. We're going to go very attacking, demand more from the lads. Hopefully they don't get a third here. Edu Vieira's deflected behind for a corner. It's really all going wrong now, and Benfica look like scoring 4 or 5. It's Marzuki with an out-swinging corner. It's into the back post. Hyosung heads away, but Vasquez is going to get there first as Benfica keep the pressure on. They start again at centre half, and the highlight ends with them comfortable at 2-0. 20 minutes to go and De Campo's got it in midfield. It's an awful tackle from Marzuki. He's got a red card and that could be a lifeline for us. A world-class striker who's made a horrific tackle in midfield. Schürrle on a booking's got an injury, but thankfully it's not showing up as a knock, so he should be able to continue. 15 to go and now we're going to be all out attack, but Bernardo Souza's even having a poor game. Vieira on the left to Vasquez. I really worry about some of these boys, particularly as big game players. Remember the cup game against Porto, when Porto were in really poor form? We got overrun by them in that one. The last game in the league against Benfica, the Europa League one against Porto too. Every time we play these big 2 sides, there seems to be a bit of a stumbling block. The only exception really was the Super Cup, as Benfica continue to dominate the chances. They've only got 10 men and 1 up front, but they're still winning all the headers in the box. I really worry about the mentality of this team, even though there's a lot of good individuals, and maybe that was the thing that Hugo Viana gave up. He managed to get decent players, but couldn't get the ones with that winning mentality. Schürrle's got in on the right, and now Gerardo's in behind. Can we stumble our way into the game? We can't, as Gerardo's caught offside. I'm sure if he was fully match fit he wouldn't have done that. I do worry that we're going to throw away this title, but I'm hoping with a 5-point gap we'll still be able to cling on. We've not got got many of the top sides left to face, and I think we should be able to beat the other opposition. The ball's in from the left back from the corner, Ferro's got it on the line, it's a brilliant save by Fabrizio, and the fact he's been our best player when we're 2-0 down says a lot about our performance today. Every single player for Benfica's 7 or above, apart from Marzuki who's been sent off, and with 20 seconds left of stoppage time to go, we've barely had a chance since the red card for Benfica. Henrique gets it into Neskens, the right winger. They're still dominating the game. I don't know how to explain this. Edu Vieira on the left is a brilliant bit of trickery and a cross, but the highlight ends and the match ends too. The final whistle signals a 2-0 defeat, and Benfica are back in the title race. It's certainly going to make things interesting, but I hope we'll be able to hold on. Vitor Severino wants the lads to know it was disappointing. We're certainly going to tell them that. And with 11 v 10 for 20 minutes, we didn't even create a chance. As you can see, that result means Benfica are back within 5 points, just 6 games left to go. And although we've got a fairly favourable run in, we've still got to play the 5th place side away from home and a couple of the other mid-table teams too, so it's certainly not over just yet. I want to go and see what Benfica's run-in's like, just so we can compare it to our one, and then we'll go and have a look at the club we've had an interview for, just so you can see where we may be managing next season. If we don't get a big job in one of the other 3 remaining countries, we will obviously end the series, as our trophy haul remains pretty good so far, but obviously it would be a shame if we threw away this title. It'd be the first for over 25 years for Sporting, and we'd certainly be remembered as a hero. So the slight good news is that Benfica have a slightly trickier run-in on paper. Braga are 3rd at the moment and Rio Ave in 6th. They've also got a Portuguese Cup semi-final. That's sandwiched in midweek between the next 2 games. So hopefully they'll focus on that one and drop a couple of points, which will help lead us to the title. If they don't, we're going to have to be a bit more consistent. Things are starting to go wrong at the wrong time, and that's a little unfortunate coming towards the end of the season, but I think I'm still confident we can hang on. I've got to show the lads that we believe in them, even though I'm a little bit concerned. We need to go and check Ryan Astley's injury. It's only a 1-day knock, and with Michel not back for a couple of weeks yet, he'll take a while to get back to fitness too. He's been out for 2 or 3 months, so we are going to struggle at centre-half in the meantime. Ben Hurst is going to miss half of the run-in, so we're certainly lacking that little bit of star quality. But let's finish on the job centre screen so I can show you the one we've applied for. It's RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga. I said it's the league I really wanted to manage in, all the way back at the start of the series, and it's obviously one of the 3 big leagues we haven't managed in yet. The Bundesliga, La Liga and Ligue 1 in France. 3 really competitive leagues, and Leipzig would be a brilliant job to get. Unfortunately, despite our interview, there is a candidate that's moved into evens. Let's see what his resume's like. He's managed the club before and been sacked, so that one seems a bit strange if he moved back. Levante and Everton since then, and a 4-star reputation. He's certainly a good candidate, but I'm hoping we'll get a chance in the job next season. Why bring back a manager you've had before when you can have another top class manager? Of course we're potentially proving that wrong as we try our best to throw away the Portuguese league title, but fingers crossed we'll be able to cling on for the title, and you'll see us celebrating in the last episode of the season. But if you did enjoy this one, please do put a thumbs up on it, even if it was just seeing us be defeated and making the title race interesting again, with Benfica moving back to within touching distance. Our final game of the season's against Aves. That's possibly the one we'll come back for next, unless things look like they're progressing in the meantime and we could win the title a bit earlier. Obviously the toughest game on paper is 3rd from the end, and as it stands at the moment that could be when we wrap up the title, so you may well see that one instead. Let me know in the comments if you think we could still throw it away, and your thoughts on the prospect of us joining RB Leipzig. I know it's a bit of a franchise club and it wouldn't be our first choice in the country, but I'd really like to manage in the Bundesliga and it'd be a great way to finish this series for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily FM19 content from my 2 long-term stories, this one the head coach, and then our one club series part of the furniture with Torquay United. We've just started season 15 in that one. We had a spectacular transfer special, and then our first game of the league season yesterday, followed by a massive landmark coming up tomorrow. So if you're not up to date with the series, this season certainly is a good starting point. There's also 3 episodes a week from my Cricket 19 career, every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday at midday. A massive thank you to everyone that supported that one, as well as our Ashes Test playthrough from the same game beforehand. I really have been blown away by the support and can't thank you enough for giving it a try. There's also weekly content from my Snooker 19 career, that's every Friday at 4:30. 4:30. But a massive thanks for watching this one and your continued support with the series. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time for a slightly more positive episode, as we'll hopefully have the chance to celebrate a league title. Can we secure the domestic treble? Join me next time to find out.